I can still vividly recall a terrifying evening when I was a teenager. I used to watch children to earn extra money. One evening, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, my next-door neighbors, asked me to watch Emily, their 2-year-old daughter, while they attended a dinner party. I decided to agree because they were nice and I had previously watched their children. They gave me instructions on what to do, including Emily's bedtime routine and emergency contacts, and then left me by myself in their cozy home. Everything was routine at first. Emily was a kind and inquisitive young girl. We built block towers as well as read books and played games. As the evening wore on, Emily started to get tired, so I put her to bed and made sure she had her beloved teddy bear. As the night went on, the house got increasingly quiet. The only sounds were the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the clock. I was preparing to spend the evening alone on the couch. I was startled, though, by a sudden loud crash. It sounded in the living room just as I was leaving. When I quickly arrived to find out what had happened, I saw the window was broken and that there was glass all over the floor. I had to keep Emily safe despite my fear, so I overcame it. I was running to Emily's room when a shadowy figure suddenly appeared in the hallway. This intruder was tall and ominous. Time seemed to stand still as soon as we locked eyes. I knew I had to defend Emily, and my heart was racing as I thought of it. I tried to fight the intruder, but he was stronger and more adept. He hit me, knocked me out, and I hit the ground. I prayed for Emily's safety just before I passed out and thought of her. I was in pain and confused when I awoke. Both Emily and the intrusive person had left. I felt guilty for failing to defend her. I had a hard time dialing 911, but I did. I hoped that Emily would be located by the police before it was too late. The days that followed were anxious and uncertain. I experienced a range of emotions, from fear to guilt to a sliver of hope. A breakthrough eventually occurred. The footprints of the intruder were discovered, and the police followed them to a dilapidated home outside of town. In a damp, dark basement, they discovered Emily. When she saw them, she appeared both scared and relieved. She being secure made me extremely happy. My entire experience changed me. Because of it, I became more cautious because I realized how frightening the world could be. I also value my time spent with my family and friends and realized that bad things could still occur, even in the middle of the night. After that evening, I was unable to babysit the same way. I was constantly on guard, and I hoped that by sharing my experience, others would take extra care when watching over children. Emily still had the scars from that night, but with time and help, she started to recover. Together, we battled the gloom and rebuilt our lives. I needed some money, so I was watching kids for a well-off neighboring family. I didn't know that my job, which at first seemed to be enjoyable, would soon change into a terrifying nightmare. Everything started out well in the beginning. He was such a sweet little guy, and I loved taking care of him. However, after working there for a few days, I began to question whether the father was telling the truth. I had the feeling that he was keeping an eye on me every time he came home. This made me feel uncomfortable. When I began to question his motivations and why he was so fixated on me, things became extremely tense. Who wouldn't be frightened by someone who was always keeping an eye on them? One night, after putting the baby to sleep, I was getting ready to take a relaxing bath when I noticed a strange object concealed behind a stack of towels. I started to feel anxious as I became aware of a tiny hidden camera that was menacingly staring out of the bathroom's corner. As soon as I saw the camera, I yelled at the father. In an effort to disprove my assertions, he at first denied knowing anything about it. However, his performance declined when I turned the camera so he could see it. He acknowledged it in order to keep a straight face. He filmed me in secret, invaded my privacy, and showed no remorse at all. My blood froze as a wave of rage and disgust washed over me. A truly horrifying development, however, took place when he revealed his true intentions. He wanted to touch me, and he wanted to invade my personal space in the most disgusting way he could. I realized how serious the situation was, and I began to freak out. I needed to escape from his nightmare as soon as I could. I was determined to confront him head on and firmly yell, "No!" at him. He couldn't force me to do anything. I made every effort to fend him off, trying not to take responsibility for my predicament. Even though the battle was hard, my instincts for survival propelled me to keep going. I wriggled free of his grip and bolted for the closest exit. Adrenaline kept me moving while my heart was racing as I sped through the house. I reasoned that he might pass me if I looked back and turned around. Before stepping outside into the brisk night air, I opened my eyes and took a deep breath. I began crying as I came to terms with how serious what had occurred was. I may have felt safe, but I'll never forget the terror of that night. I've moved past the horrible incident now, but I still cringe when I consider what might have happened if I hadn't been able to escape. It acts as a horrifying reminder that bad things can appear in the most unlikely places. As a regular babysitter, I was eager to spend time with this sweet young child. In addition to being hospitable, the parents' home was comfortable, but I had no idea that this babysitting gig would develop into a terrifying nightmare. The child was upstairs sleeping when the parents departed, so I sat in the living room, anticipating a quiet evening. My phone then rang from an unidentified number. In the past, I wouldn't have responded, but this time I did. The voice on the other end was unnerving. "Hello," the voice greeted. "I sincerely hope you're enjoying yourself here." Because I assumed it was a joke, I became alarmed. I questioned it if it was a joke, but the caller was completely knowledgeable about the residence, down to the smallest details, like squeaky floors and flickering lights. It gave me the chills and made me uncomfortable. I searched the area for covert cameras, but was unsuccessful. It was beyond comprehension how much the caller knew. As they described what I was doing, I grew more and more frightened. I cast a quick glance at the stairs leading up to the kid's room, torn between looking out for myself and looking out for the kid. I made the brave choice to tell the caller to end the joke. The real game had just started, the caller said while giggling. I was petrified. Both the child and I required protection. I headed upstairs after snatching a broom. With its shadows and offbeat sounds, the house seemed unsettling. It felt as though I were inside a scary story. As I entered the kid's room, my heart was beating fast, but no one was in the space. I began searching the entire house as panic overcame me. What if they took the kid while keeping an eye on me? I called 911 and explained the circumstance, but I was unable to wait. I swept the house while being extremely cautious. I was frightened by the sound of every creaking floorboard, and my mind was tricked by the low lighting. I then picked up a faint shuffle as a sound. I forced myself to hold my breath as I drew nearer, firmly holding the broom. In the dim light of the living room, I noticed a person wearing a mask. We looked at each other and acknowledged the growing tension. I ran for the door after yelling to startle them. Backtracking, they made an effort to flee. The broom and I sprinted outside. When the police showed up, they looked through the house, but nobody was there. It appeared as though the intruder had disappeared. I informed the parents of what happened, and they promised to look into it. My thoughts were troubled by the enigmatic intruder and their peculiar information. It altered my perspective on life and raising children. I became more cautious and stopped assuming strange occurrences were just coincidences. That evening served as a chilling reminder of how easily evil can encroach upon good circumstances.